Imagine waking up tomorrow and you simply don't feel afraid anymore. Not brave, not confident, just empty where the fear used to be. No racing heart when you hear footsteps behind you at night. No dread when you think about the worst moments of your life. Just nothing. There's a woman, we'll call her SM. She was studied for decades by neuroscientists who called her the most fearless human being they had ever encountered. Spiders, haunted houses, knife-point robberies. She experienced all of them and felt nothing. Not because she was brave, but because the part of her brain responsible for fear had been destroyed. And the scientists who studied her started asking a question that changed neuroscience forever. If fear can disappear when part of the brain is gone, can we remove it on purpose? Every fear you have is attached to a memory. You're not scared of dogs in general. You're scared because of something that happened, even if you can't fully remember it. The fear and the memory are stored together like a file with two parts. Every single time you remember something scary, you're not just playing it back, you're rebuilding it from scratch, like a copy of a copy of a copy. And every time you make that copy, it's slightly editable. In the early 2000s, a neuroscientist named Karim Nader ran an experiment on rats. He triggered a fearful memory in a rat's brain, then immediately injected a drug that blocks the brain's ability to resave that memory. The next day, the fear was gone. Not suppressed, not buried, gone. The rat had the experience, but the emotional sting attached to it had been erased. This is called the reconsolidation window, and it lasts approximately 6 hours. Scientists started testing this on humans with PTSD, people who had survived car crashes, assaults, combat, and couldn't stop reliving it. The procedure was almost uncomfortably simple. A therapist would have them briefly recall the traumatic memory, just enough to open it, to bring it back into that editable state. Then, within that 6-hour window, they'd either give a drug called Propranolol, a common blood pressure medication, or use a specific type of therapy designed to overwrite the emotional content. And it worked. Not for everyone, not perfectly, but for some patients, a traumatic memory that had ruled their life for years became just a memory, like a story that happened to someone else. But hold on a second. If you can remove fear from a memory, what else can you remove? Here's what's actually happening inside your head when you're afraid. There's a tiny structure deep inside your brain called the amygdala. It's shaped like an almond, about the size of your thumbnail, and it does one thing extraordinarily well. It tags memories with emotional weight. Every time something emotional happens, fear, joy, trauma, love, the amygdala fires and essentially stamps that memory. This stamp is called an emotional memory trace, and it's what makes certain memories feel different from others. Remembering what you had for breakfast? No stamp. Flat. Remembering the worst day of your life? That memory is drenched in amygdala activity. Now back to SM, the woman with no fear. Her amygdala had been destroyed by a rare genetic disease, and without that fear stamp mechanism, literally nothing scared her. She walked into a haunted house and even started comforting the actors. But here's what the scientists didn't expect. SM had been attacked, robbed, threatened with weapons. And she kept putting herself in dangerous situations, not because she was reckless, but because she genuinely couldn't learn from fear. Fear isn't just an emotion, it's a warning system. Without it, you don't just feel brave, you become blind to danger you can't consciously process. And SM, she wanted to feel afraid. She described fear as something she intellectually understood she was supposed to feel but couldn't access, like a locked door with no key. After some years, the research stopped being just about PTSD. Scientists realized that if you can erase the emotional content attached to a memory while leaving the memory itself intact, you could theoretically edit any emotion tied to any memory. Grief researchers started asking, could we help people who are destroyed by loss? Not by erasing the person they loved from memory, but by softening the unbearable pain attached to losing them? Addiction researchers noticed something even more unsettling. Drug addiction is, at its core, a memory problem. The craving isn't just physical, it's the brain replaying a memory of pleasure and wanting that feeling back. If you could block the reconsolidation of that pleasure memory, the craving might simply stop. But then came the question nobody wanted to ask out loud. Think about guilt. Guilt is just a memory with an emotional tag of shame and discomfort. What if a soldier with PTSD came in to erase the fear and trauma attached to a violent memory and accidentally or intentionally also erase the guilt? The memory of what happened would remain, but the part that said that was wrong would be gone. There are researchers who have written seriously about a future where this technology is used in courtrooms, not to punish criminals, but to rehabilitate them by removing the emotional patterns that drive violent behavior. Is that treatment? Or is it a form of erasing identity? And who decides which memories deserve to keep their emotional weight? So, back to the original question. Can scientists remove fear from your brain? The answer is yes, sort of, under specific conditions. For now, the reconsolidation window is real. The research is real. The human trials are real. Propranolol is already being used off-label by some therapists for trauma patients. But the technology is rough, inconsistent, and deeply, deeply unfinished. What scientists have confirmed is this: your memories are not sacred. They're not locked away and protected. Every single time you remember something, you're briefly holding it in an editable state. For a few hours, that memory is vulnerable, which means every single day, without any drugs or therapy, you are already slightly rewriting your own past. We assume our memories are true. We assume the fear, the grief, the love attached to them is accurate. But if every act of remembering slightly rewrites the memory, and if the emotional tag can be altered by a drug, by a therapy session, or even just by how you think about something while you're recalling it, then here's the real question. How much of who you are right now is just the accumulated edits of a memory system that was never designed to be accurate? And if you could redesign it, would you?